Hi everyone, it's Mark Dunn, the score registrar for the VBSA, and this is the first in a series of videos on how to use the new scoring app on the VBSA website. It's been named SEWS for Scores Entry Web Page System. We'll call it SEWS for the purposes of this exercise. I've using Zoom and I've shared my screen so you can see what I'm seeing, and I'm also recording this, obviously. It is come up, the process so far is that all the scoring that used to be done by way of sending in team sheets has all been foregone. You now enter your scores through SEWS. Each captain, two captains on pennant nights enter their scores after the match. And the team sheet, probably best is you still complete a team sheet and all the scores just for your own benefit. If there ever is a question about it, but also to use as a tool to transpose the results into SEWS. Typically, you might have a whiteboard or something similar, but you'll no doubt write down the results as they occur, and then at the end of the match, come through and collaborate with your opponent and come through and enter all the data into SEWS. It's very much appreciated if this could be done on the evening of the match, so everything's done and dusted on the night. So next morning, I can come through and see that everything's been submitted and push the magic button and everything is just uploaded to the VBSA website, all the letters, all the stats, all that type of thing. Okay, as captains of the teams, or if you are the captains of the teams, you will have received a login already to SEWS, and that gives you your username, which is your email address, and also a password, and also a link to the SEWS page. Page is on the VBSA homepage on the top right-hand corner, the scoring system, but the link also takes you to there. You simply go into the app. Most people will be using their mobile phones to do this. So to mimic that, I'm going to just minimize my screen so you can get a better idea of what it might look like. Okay. All right, when you first log in, you're presented with select fixture page. I'm using the login of one of the captains of the C Premier Snooker team, so that's Richard Shaxnovis from Campbell Heath, and this is to give you a more accurate view of what you'll see on your mobile phone. So instead of having the, and I'll just maximize that again, instead of having the menu across the top, you'll now have the menu access through these three little horizontal bars here. If I click on that, you'll see the basic menu options available to you. Selecting fixtures is where we're going in and doing the scoring. Player scores is all the data from the scores that have been submitted so far this season. So you can see not only your own team scores, but all the scores from all the other teams and grades for that matter. The add captain function is if you need someone to fill in for you for a night or share the responsibilities, or even if you prefer to pass this responsibility to one of your other players, then you can add them as a captain and they can go in and do all this scoring for you. There's no compunction on the captains particularly to complete all this side of things. If you've got enough to do running a team, by all means pass that responsibility to one of your other players. Change password is what it says. The password that has been issued to you is quite a convoluted one, so you may wish to change it to something more memorable, and that's fine. And of course, log out takes you out of the app, of the program. Okay, this video will just deal with setting up your team for the night's play. All the scoring side of things and the approval side of things will be dealt with in the second video. Okay, so let's go in and let's set Richard's team up. I'll be using Richard's login to do his team, and I'll be going back out and coming back in as administrator to do the opposition team, which in this case is going to be North Brighton. Okay, So I'm looking at the live system here. So you can see on the URL at the top, it has the VBSA at the start of the URL. So this is the actual live system I'm doing. All the data we're about to enter will clear out at the end of the session. So Richard's team at Camberwell Heat are in C Premier Snooker. So if you click on select fixture, you'll see you're offered all the different grades that are running around this season 1 of 2024. And CPS is C grade snooker on a Wednesday night. So let's check on that. Let's click on that. Okay, you'll see that we already have a number of rounds completed, and you'll notice there's a lot of green there. That's a good thing. That's telling us that all the scores have been entered and approved for those rounds. And when we get to the coming rounds, which start tomorrow night, today's the 12th of March, so tomorrow night is the next round. You'll see that's all in red, and that's because there are no results entered or approvals given. I'm going to work on round 6 a little way ahead, and you see the Camberwell Heat are matched against the North Brighton Breakmakers. Now, I've logged in as Richard, the captain of Camberwell Heat, and you'll notice if I try to click on any of the other teams, I'll get a message that says, I can only view the scores for your own team. If I was logged in as administrator, I, of course, could see all these things. But Richard can only see his own team, Camberwell Heat. And let's click on Camberwell Heat. Okay, so it's telling us that this is C grade round 6 snooker on the 3rd of April. That's C Premier Snooker, and it matches between Camberwell Heat, the home team, and North Brighton Breakmakers, the away team. It's asking us to add players to the score sheet and to enter the score sheets and breaks for the Camberwell Heat. So it always tells you which team you're dealing with at the time. Now, one of the primary things here is that the teams must be entered separately by the 2 captains before anything else can be done, before any scoring can be done. You must do that separately on separate devices. You can't do it for each other. The actual scoring itself, once the 2 teams are entered, can be done by either captain. But the entering of the teams and the final stage, which is the approval of the scores, must be done separately and passwords entered to save the data. So the idea here is that there's a bit of an approval process, a bit of rigor around the approval of the results and the setting of the teams. Okay, so first step is we're going to add players to this score sheet, and you can see it looks pretty much like the old hard copy paper score sheet that we had, and we're going to add players to the score sheet. Just bear with me while I look to my right because I'm following a bit of a script here. And it comes up with the players that have already been assigned to Richard's team, Camberwell Heat. So these are all players that he can select from to play in that night's pennant competition. We won't mess around. We'll just do the old donkey vote straight down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you'll notice that you can only select one player in position 1. If I try to put George Savard, for example, into position 1 against Dominic is cleared out, and there's no longer a position 2. So you can only select one player in each of the positions. Put George back to position 2 and put Dominic back into position 1. So I could select any of these players in any order, so long as they conform to they must be only one player in each playing position. So we have 4 players playing. Next step is to populate the playing positions. You see those 4 players have now been entered into the score sheet in the order that you entered, and we're ready to do the scoring, including the breaks for that team. We would normally just save players and scores, and okay to that. Okay, so now the Camberwell Heat team is all set to go. If I click on View Player-to-Player Matchups, it will tell me that the other team, it's telling me nothing at the moment because the other team has to be entered before I can see any of the opposition score sheet or the player matchups. Until the opposition, both teams are entered, then none of that sharing of information can be done. And that's to reflect the old system whereby you filled out the score sheet, had it folded over so the opposition couldn't see your team nor you theirs, and there can be no messing around with who plays who. Okay, well, let's just go back for a moment into the add players to the score sheet, and let's, rather than adding those players, suppose we had a brand new player that we wanted to add to this team. I'm going to add me. Okay, so perhaps I've decided to play for this team and they've called me in to play as an emergency. So you just enter the name, click into the enter name in this field to add players box and start typing in a name. Just put myself in. So here all the marks are currently registered within the VBSA system. And you'll see way down the list, you'll see me. So you can pick me out of that list. So these are people that are already in the VBSA system, known entities, if you like. And I could choose, once you've selected that player, choose add to list. Just something to be mindful of here is, the spelling of names, people's names can be spelled differently, surnames and family names and Christian names can be mixed up quite easily. So just be careful with the spelling of things and selecting of names. So I'm going to add myself to the list of players for Camberwell Heat. Now I'm one of the selectable players in this team. So I'll make myself the fourth player in place of Karan. And again, populate playing positions. And there I am in the fourth position, and I'll save that as well. Let's go back into the add players to score sheet. Okay, so you've now got a real new player, someone who's just walked in off the street and you've decided you're going to give him a game of snooker. So he's not at all in the VBSA system. Okay, so what we do there is we just start typing in a name, and I'm going to create a name which I know will not be in the VBSA system, and I'm going to call him Elon. There's no Elons, as you would expect. Mr. Musk is going to get a top snooker player apparently, so let's add him into the list. Obviously, he's not discovered in the list of previous players because he never has played. So he's going to be a brand new player. And when I go add to list, it's going to ask me some more information about him. It's prompting me with some information about me, so I'll just accept that. And so this is going to create a brand new membership record within the VBSA system. And the reason why we asked if you ever played Pennant before is that as a score registrar, I'll do a bit of a check in the background to make sure that there isn't a duplication of records and that perhaps Mr. Musk, I see it's replaced in there too, so I'll just change that as well. And this is going to create a brand new record for him. I'm not going to finalise this because this is a live system, but what would happen is that Elon would be placed in the list of players available to play in this team. We don't want to create a dummy record in the live system. But that's what you would do. You would then add to list, and Mr. Musk would become not only a member in the VBSA listing, but also you could add him to your team. I'm going to close out of this. You'll notice here when you are doing this, if you ever are doing this, that there is a requirement that that this new player complete a VBSA membership form, and it gives you a link to that page on the website where you can go and do that. And it's a requirement of all players that they complete a membership form. Only takes a minute or two, so it's easy enough to do. Okay, I'm going to close back out of this and return to our list of players. I'm just going to change. So I'm just going to change back to get me out of the team of the results. Change back to Karan, their actual players now. Okay. One of the other things, I'll just save that in, always an idea to save things. One of the other things that can happen is that you can have a player forfeit or a team forfeit. Now, obviously, if Camberwell Heat are unable to have 4 players, then the 4th player will become forfeited. It's almost always played in the 4th player position. So if I just put in forfeit, there's two options, either a team forfeit or a player forfeit. So it's only one player that's missing in this game, in this instance. So we're calling him a player forfeit. And we'll add the player forfeit to the list. And you'll see in a second, there he is. So perhaps Karan was unavoidably detained and they had no one else available, so they have to forfeit frame number 4. Now, if you're forfeiting before anyone started, then it's always played at number 4. If it's player number 1 or 2, player number 1 or 3 forfeiting, which is, and they usually play second, and if they're forfeited after the first 2 games are started, then the forfeit can be played at either position 1 or position 3, which is only the fair thing to do. So we're going to, in this case, the player forfeit is going to be played, and what will happen there is that the opposition player matched against that position will receive 3 frames of snooker. They'll receive 2 points in bids. So it's just as if they were playing. And the idea here is that the player who forfeited, Karan, we're saying here, isn't impacted by the fact that it will be shown as a lost match for him. He just didn't play, and it's a forfeited position. Okay, we're going to return. Actually, one other thing we can look at again, as I said, the other option is for a team forfeit. And where there's a team forfeit, then what happens here is that you clear out all. Just simply click team forfeit for so that means the whole team is forfeiting. What happens there in snooker is that the the 4 opposition players get 2 frames of snooker each. In bids, they get 6 out of their 8 possible points each, and there is a penalty applied to the team forfeit of -4 points. All gets worked out in the wash. If ever that happens, please let me know that a forfeit has been happened that night, so I can make sure that it's all scored correctly. Okay, so we're going to close out of this because there's no forfeit here. We're just going to take those 4 players as being the players who are playing for this night. Okay. I'm just going to stop recording here for a second, and I'm going to go in and enter the team for the opposition and come back and log in back in as Richard and complete the team setup. So just bear with us while I pause recording. Okay, I've gone in and set the team up for North Brighton Breakmakers. I'll now just click back on, log back in as Camberwell Heat. Pop back in there and look at this sheet. We've got the 4 players for Camberwell Heat. And now if I go to other view players scores, you can see who's playing against who. And if I go to opposition score sheet, I can also see the opposition's score sheet. Now, this is an important point. My way of thinking that this should be a collaborative effort between the 2 captains. Once the matches are complete and you've got all the scores in front of you, that you both sit down with your separate devices, and that perhaps one of the captains logs in with both teams entered, they have access to both score sheets, and one captain reads out the results and the other captain records them in their system. But that's not to say you can't both enter your own results separately. At the end of the day, you'll come to the approvals page, and that's where you compare exactly what's been entered into the system. But you'll see that the team for the North Brighton Breakmakers has been entered. So you can now see who's playing who. Now let's go back to the Camberwell Heat sheet, and we're now ready to enter the scores. Okay, that's as much as I hope to do in this first video, just to set the teams up, add your teams to your match for that night, and make sure that they're ready to go when the actual scoring takes place. So I'm going to stop the video here and we'll resume the second video with the actual scoring. I'll just check my list. I think I've done everything I need to do, so I'll see you very soon.